Hey friends, how's it going and welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk to you about API caching. So the example that I'm giving is that have you used Facebook in a place where there is no internet connectivity? So for example, we like to browse like social media, especially in the toilet when we're taking a poop. And then you realize that reception is bad. And when you open up your app, you notice that there are still some feeds on your Facebook, or let's assume if you're using TikTok, you realize that there are some videos that are still on the feed even though there's no internet connectivity. So have you thought about how this is possible? So obviously the answer is that some of this content is actually being persisted on the device itself locally. So in this video, I want to show you how you can kind of replicate that behavior as well. And of course, there are many different implementations. Some are not so polished, but I'm going to show you one which I think which looks quite nice and testable, and using the combined framework. All right. So if you're interested, continue to watch this. This is the finished project, so it's quite short. So let's see how long that is. It's less than 100 lines long. So if you want to walk through the code with me, coding this from scratch, then feel free to watch to the end of this video. But otherwise, I want to just quickly show you a demonstration of how this implementation works. Okay, so let's start with the storyboard. So the storyboard is completely empty. So let me just wait for a while. It's just blank view controller over here. And then inside the view controller, inside the view did load, I'm making a call to post service, and it allows me to fetch some posts. Okay, so you can think of this as a Facebook feed. All right, so a post is basically just some information. So let's come to the endpoint to see what's the data we are expected to receive. Okay, so I have my Chrome over here. So let's just punch this in, and this is the post. All right. Oh, this is the post. Yeah. Okay, so over here we have user ID, title, and body. So keeping this really simple. So I think there are 10 items altogether. All right, so this is an array. Oh, I think there are 20 items or more than that. Oh, sorry, guys, it's 100 items. All right, so there's 100 items inside this array. And over here, I have this post service over here, which call fetch post. So it's supposed to make an API call to this endpoint and fetch all this information. All right. So I'm not going to display them inside because that's not the point of this tutorial. But over here, you notice inside this post service, I have something called remote service, which fetches this information from remotely via network. All right, and I have one that's called offline service as well. So let's walk through the logic over here. So you notice over here, when I call fetch post, I'm getting the remote service to make the API call. And then I'm catching for any error that can happen. So for instance, if there's no internet, or for example, if the server returns a 404 or 500, okay, then what I want to do is that I want to use the offline service to get those cached posts offline. All right, so let's look at what get offline is over here. Okay, so over here, offline service. When I get offline, I'm actually going to dig into my user defaults, which is over here, to get those information and then display it. Okay, so what happens after I am able to get the information? Okay, so you notice over here under the handler events, I'm going to persist all these posts locally. So I'm going to save them offline, right? So you notice over here there is a save offline method where we encode them into decodable, or encodable, and then we save them inside user defaults as well. Okay, so let me just quickly run this to show it to you how it works. So I'm going to hit the play button right now, and then just check out the console over here. Okay, so over here it says save offline, and then I have a post. 100 items, and I'm going to review the first post. So if you notice over here inside the view controller, when I receive this object, I'm going to just show how many posts are there, which is 100, as you can see from this API payload. Okay, and then I'm just going to unwrap the first one and just print out what you see over here. Okay, so now notice if I am to turn off my internet connectivity, you can't really see that, but I can show it to you. When I turn this off, now if I hit the refresh button, you will see no internet over here. Okay, so now watch what happens. Okay, if I am to hit the play button right now, we are going to go into the offline fetching. Okay, so check out what's happening over here. Okay, so Xcode is returning a bunch of errors over here, but most importantly, I want you to focus on the one that has this 3 arrows over here, because that's what I want to show it to you. So Let's filter this by the 3 arrows. And then now you notice over here it says get offline because of this error. So let's trace where this is. Get offline over here. Alright, so this is when I have the catch block, which means I'm getting an error. So I'm catching offline because the internet connection seems to be offline. Alright, so I'm entering into this catch block over here. And then notice that there's a save offline as well. So I came over here. Alright, so you notice that when I call get offline, I'm actually entering into this get offline function over here. And this get offline function over here digs into the user defaults. Okay, so what do we do over here? We cast the data, okay, from user defaults. We get it from a key that we specified, which is post, and then we just return it inside this publisher. All right, what else do we do? Sorry, we get the data. Okay, so this data will be of type data. Okay, so not to confuse you, data, and then we decode it using JSON decodable, and then we just return it using a just publisher. All right. Okay, so this block over here is if data is missing, then we're just going to return an empty array. Okay, which is not what we are doing right now. Okay, so then what happens is that we get offline, we return it to we return it over here, and then we persist this offline again. Okay. So yeah, if this is interesting to you, then feel free to continue watching this, because I'll be coding this from scratch and showing you my thought process as well. Okay, so right now, if I am to, okay, so I forgot to mention, so after I get these things offline, I'm still able to show the post over here, because inside view deload over here, I'm still printing out the post as well as the first post. Okay, so this is just to show to you that even though the internet is offline, I'm able to still retrieve it from user defaults. Obviously, there are many ways to store information offline. You can use core data, property lists as well, but I decided to use user defaults because that's the easiest way to just illustrate to you how this works. Okay, so right now, if I am to just enable my internet right now, so let me just wait for a while to enable my Wi-Fi. And now I'm just going to refresh this one to show it to you that I have internet now. Okay, so right now, if I am to rerun this one more time, notice that I won't get the get offline anymore, because I'm able to again make an API call to the server, and upon a successful API call, when I get back the payload, I'm going to persist this new information locally again. All right, that's why you see save offline over here instead of the get offline. All right, so let's get started by building this from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to just open up a new demo project, which is blank. Okay, so I kind of planned to record this yesterday, but I didn't have the time. That's why I have this project over here. Okay, so let's get started, and I'm going to walk you through my thought process as well, and how you can do it with Combine. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to import the Combine framework, because we're going to use that, Combine. And then over here, we want to make a some kind of service, right? So I'm going to create a class over here, and then I'm going to call this post service. Okay, and also since I know that I'm going to be fetching from this endpoint, I need to find out what is the payload over here. Okay, so guys, I'm going to show you a little trick over here, which is pretty cool. So I'm not sure whether you've seen this before. This is called JSON to strut Swift. Okay, so what you can do, you can come over here to QuickType, and then you can just paste this entire thing inside here. Okay, let's come to generate code now. So basically, this tool helps you to convert a JSON payload to a Swift strut. Okay, so you can just paste the entire thing over here, and you notice that let's call this response. Okay, you notice that you have all these things over here. Let me see, is it correct? User ID. Yeah. Okay, so you have all this automatically created strut for you. Okay, but this time I don't think I want to use this because it's not so complex now, so I'm going to create my own. So just to highlight that for you, so we have a post which is codable. Okay, so maybe let me just bring that in one more time. Okay, so user ID title body, so maybe just like that, and then let's do let user ID of type int, let ID of type int as well, let title, this is of type string, and let body of type string as well. Okay, So we need to make this codable, and the reason is because we are going to persist this offline and retrieving it from our persistence, okay, our offline persistence. Okay, so now we are going to use post service. So post service is going to fetch post. So let's call this fetch post. Okay, and this is going to return to us a publisher. So this will be an any publisher, and then we are interested in an array of posts. All right, so we have an array of posts over here, and then maybe we can just put an arrow here as well. Okay, so now since we have two ways of doing that, I'm going to create those two ways now. So the first way is the remote service. Okay, so maybe let me just call this post remote service. Okay, and then I'm going to create one that's called post offline service. Okay, I hope you guys are still following. Okay, so both of them kind of do the same thing as well. It fetches from for the post remote service, it fetches from the API, and obviously for the post offline service, it fetches from the local persistence. Okay, so for the first one, let's do fetch func fetch post. Okay, again this returns the same signature, so like that. Okay, and then we're going to put in our URL string. So let URL string equals to, let me come back here, this is the one that we want. So this is going to be very simple. This is how we typically create a publisher, a URL session publisher. So let URL equals to URL, pass in the string. Okay, and then we're going to return URL session.shared.data task. Okay, so we're going to select this one over here for URL. Okay, and then we're going to do map. We're interested in the data. So data, and then what do we want to do with the data? We want to decode it with JSON decoder. All right, so decode. And what is the type? The type is an array of posts. Okay, so we're going to use JSON decoder, and then let's return to any publisher. Okay, so just like that. So let's ensure that this is working in the first place. So inside the post service, I'm going to do let remote service equals to, okay, let's do it this way, post remote service. You can initialize it like that. So obviously I've not done any kind of abstraction over here, but if you want to make this unit testable, then you can put in the protocols and things like that. Okay, so inside over here, I'm just going to return remote service dot fetch post. Okay, very simple. I believe this should compile. Command B to build this. Everything should be good. Build succeeded. Okay, so let's first ensure that this is working. So let's do private let post. Is it post? Let me see. Is it post or post? Okay, let's call this post service. Okay, so this will be post service. I think let me just make this plural. Post service. And let's initialize this. Okay, no dependency needed, so we can just initialize it like that. Okay, so we also have to create a subscription, right? So this is cancellables. So any cancelable. Okay, so let's call that inside the view.load. So we go with post service dot fetch post dot sync. Okay, so this is where the error happens. So maybe let's also check if case dot failure let error equals to completion. Okay, I spelled it incorrectly, ON, and then we're just going to print this out. Okay, so I'll just say failure here, and then let's print out the error over here. Otherwise, this is the success case, so we're going to get an array of posts. So I'm going to say I'll just say maybe let's do post.count, and then maybe let's get the first one. All right. Okay, and let's not forget that we need to store it inside our subscription. So this basically holds the reference to our to the publisher. Okay, so now I'm going to just run this on the simulator, and let's see if we're getting anything. Okay, so I'm going to kill this one over here, and then wait for this to build. Okay, cannot find post remote service. I think it's this one. Let me run this one more time. Okay, build succeeded. So let's see what happens over here. Alright guys, so you see that we have something inside the console that's been printed out. So obviously we are inside the success block over here where we have the count and then we have the first post. All right. So right now, obviously, if I'm to turn on my internet, it's not going to get anything. So let me just do that and just run it and let's see what we are getting. I believe we should see the failure here. Yep. All right. So you see failure here, and then the internet connectivity appears to be offline. All right. So that's what we want to handle. Okay. So right now I'm going to write this. Okay, so let me just come to my reference. Okay, so what we need to do, I think let's start with the post offline service first. So for the post offline service, we're gonna do two things. One is that we're gonna save offline. Okay, so if we get a successful object that's being returned, after we pass it, we want to persist this offline. So I'm going to pass in post, and this will be an array of posts. Okay, so I'm going to do if let encoded equals to try JSON encoder dot encode post. Okay, then I'm going to persist this inside my user defaults. Okay, so let's create let defaults equals to user defaults dot standard. Okay, so this is our singleton, and then I'm just going to conveniently also just create a key over here. So let's call this post. Okay, obviously you can use an enum, but I think just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to use just a property just like that. Okay, and then we're going to use default, which is user defaults, and then the way we set it is through the set method over here. And then what do we want to set? Okay, so this is of type any. So inside this encoder, this is of type data. So let's just add data over here. So we're going to save this data, okay, for this key. Okay, so very straightforward. Okay, so I'm not going to throw or return any error, so I'm just going to fire and forget. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now if I want to get offline, okay, so save offline and get offline. So obviously get offline will return to me an array of posts as well. So I'm going to use a publisher. Again, it's going to be the same signature over here. So error. Okay, again, you can choose to make this never if you want to, meaning to say in the event if there's nothing inside over here or there's an error, return an empty post. That's also doable as well, but anyway, I'm going to use error here. So I'm going to do catch, okay, because I'm going to use some try methods over here, some functions that may throw something. Okay, so what I want to do right now is to look inside my user defaults with this key to see if I can find any data. Okay, so I'm going to do let data, this is of type data, equals to defaults dot object for key. All right, so object for key is the function we use to return to us the information that can be found on user defaults. And you notice that defaults for key returns to us an any optional. All right, so we have to do some kind of casting. So key as data else return. All right, so usually we have to return something over here, right? So what can I do over here? I can return an empty array. Okay, so I'm going to use just. So if you do not know, just is also a publisher. Okay, so I can return just. Let's see, else just. Okay, and I have to also add a dot set failure type to error. Oops, let me just do it one more time. Dot set failure type error dot self, and the reason why you have to do this is because just is not returning any form of error. The signature is different. So if you are to look into just over here, it has only one output. Okay, so you will never have a failure, and that's the reason why you have to do it this way. Dot set failure type. Okay, and then I think I forgot to do this. So just empty array dot set failure type, and then finally we want to do dot erase to any publisher, just like that. All right, okay, let's see. I think it's this one here. Okay, great. So if I can get the data, then what do I want to do? I want to be able to process this data to decode it. So let decoded equals to try JSON decoder dot decode. Okay, and the type is post dot self from the data, which is this guy over here. All right, and then obviously once I have this decoded, which is an array of posts, okay, so just to make this very explicit over here, then I'm going to return a just publisher. Okay, and this will be decoded, and then I'll have to do the same thing as well. Set failure type to error dot self. Okay, because this has to match this one over here, and then finally do erase to any publisher. So in the event catch, I can do two things over here. I can return a failure. Okay, if I want to return a failure to the view controller, I can do it this way, and then I can pass in the error dot erase to any publisher. All right, or another way I can do that is that if I want to make this never, okay, but obviously this would increase a bit of complexity because I have to do some kind of manipulating at the top as well. Then obviously one way to do this is also to return, I can return this as well if I want to. All right, just an empty array over here. Okay, but I'm not going to do that because I did not prepare the tutorial to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to move it back to error. All right, command B to build this. So let's see where's the part that's failing. Set failure type dot, let's have a look. No exact matches. Okay, maybe I'm just going to copy the entire thing over here. So let me do command B one more time. Okay, build succeeded. I must have missed out something earlier. Okay, so anyway, you have the code, you can check it out. Okay, so what we want to do now is let's come inside this post of this post service over here. Okay, so we want to catch the error when this happens, so we're going to do dot catch. Okay, so if you look over here, what's the signature? Okay, I don't think you can really see here. All right, so catch, it returns to us an error. However, we are expected to return another publisher. All right, and this is where this comes in handy, okay, because this returns another publisher as well, which has the same signature. Okay, so let's do catch. Okay, so we have an error over here. So if you want, you can process the error, you can actually return it, but we're not going to do that. So we're going to return self dot offline service. Okay, do we have the offline service? No, we don't. So let's do that right now. Let offline service equals to post offline service equals to init. We're going to return self dot offline service dot get offline. Okay, so command B to build. I believe we have to return this to, okay, so over here, if I'm going to use self over here, this is going to have a problem because we're inside a closure. So let's do it, let's do a weak self over here, and in the event if self is nil, then we have to return something else. Okay, so we're going to return an empty, and empty basically means it's like sending a void. Okay, so erase to any publisher. Okay, and then what we want to do over here is that we want to handle the events. Okay, so in the event if we receive something, okay, so if you notice over here, this function has a bunch of closures here: receive subscription, receive output, receive completion, cancel, and all that. Okay, so I'm going to just show you everything over here, but we don't really need any of them except for the output, because the output means that we are receiving an output, basically the payload, or rather we are receiving an array of posts. Okay, so I'm going to just remove all of this here. Okay, and then just do it like that. Okay, so what's the output? The output will be the post over here, post in, and then when that happens, what do I want to do? I want to be able to persist them offline. All right, so weak self, so self, and then we have the offline service, and then we want to save offline, and we pass in the post over here. Okay, and finally we have to return the entire thing as an any publisher, so just dot erase to any publisher. Alright, command B to build. I believe this should build successfully. Great. Okay, so I think let's also put in some print statements over here so that we know what's happening. So I'm going to do get offline because of an error, and let's pass in this error here, error, and then over here I will say that print save post offline, and then maybe let's also put in the number of posts that we have over here. So okay, I believe this should work. So let's run this on the simulator right now. Build succeeded. So my internet connectivity is turned on right now. So notice that I have saved post offline 100, and then and then over here, this 100 will be, I believe, this one over here, 100, and post the first post over here. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off my internet, and let's see if this is working for us. Okay, so let's turn it off, and then let me come over here and show it to you that this is turned off. Okay, so we have this no internet over here, and then let's run the simulator one more time, and I believe we should be able to still get those information as well. Okay, which is over here. Okay, so let's filter this by the 3 arrows, and it looks Like this is working as expected. So get offline because of an error. The internet connectivity appears. Where's this one? Get offline, which is here. Get offline because of an error. Okay. And then we still have this information. We still have this 100 posts as well as the first post over here, and we see save offline 100. All right, so this is great because every time the internet connectivity is being restored and you're able to fetch a proper a clean API call, a successful API call, it's going to cache the new information back into your persistence, your local storage as well. Okay, so I think that this is perhaps one way you can consider to handle caching, API caching. Alright guys, this is a very impromptu video, and thank you a lot for sticking all the way to the end. Let me know if you have any questions. If you like videos like that, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like this and share this video with someone whom you think needs to watch this as well. Alright, with all that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one.